If you're an agency and you're doing more than $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month, get off a Stripe, period. End of story. Because you are always running the risk of being shut down by them. That's it. You've seen it, right? Now, is Stripe a bad platform? Clearly not. They've built a multi-billion-dollar business, so they're doing something right. Back-end payments architecture is about as fun as a wet blanket on a cold night, right? It's just the way that it is for most people. So it's safe to say they aren't the sexiest thing in a business. But they also shouldn't be the most dangerous either, right? You shouldn't have to worry about it. Generally speaking, they should be ridiculously reliable. The old cliche is true, right? It's not rocket science. You could be the world's greatest marketing agency, totally dialed in, but when number one doesn't work, you're up the proverbial creek without a paddle, right? If number one isn't working, then nothing is working. Listen, I'm going to be totally transparent. Payments are boring. Not to me, of course, right? I can talk about them all day long, all day. I do love payments. But to 99% of the business world, they're boring. I often tell people on sales calls, if you can't sleep at night, do a Google search for an interchange table and you're going to go right to sleep. Interchange tables can be mind-numbing. That's the simplest way to put it. Back-end payments architecture is about as fun as a wet blanket on a cold night, right? It's just the way that it is for most people. So it's safe to say they aren't the sexiest thing in a business. But they also shouldn't be the most dangerous either, right? You shouldn't have to worry about it. Generally speaking, they should be ridiculously reliable. I mean, like when you flip the light switch in your house and the lights come on reliable, right? They should be like that. They should be as reliable as the tide tables, the rising and the setting of the sun and the moon. It should also be cost effective. And if it's all that, the convenience shouldn't drive up the cost either. It should actually lower it, right? Convenience should lower cost to things. Now, when we talk about payments, they really just do two main things. They let you get paid, right? And ideally, they should give your customers options to pay you, right? Multiple ways to pay you because people like options. And then once somebody's made a payment, you should know the status of that payment. When are those dollars, right? All those sales going to hit your bank account? That's what you need. That's it. That's the whole program for payments. Okay. But if number one isn't working because you've been canceled by some algorithm or your money has been frozen because all of a sudden you look too risky because a different algorithm said so, then it doesn't matter if number one's working, right? Because now your money's frozen. Like, have you ever seen, I like to use this analogy. Have you ever seen iRobot, where all of a sudden all the robots go bad? And then the Will Smith character, who has been warning people the whole time, right? He's telling everybody the whole time, these robots are going to go bad. Something's not right about them, but no one pays attention to it, right? That's basically the premise of the movie. So in their whole world, in that movie, everyone was upended because the robots tried to take control. And the one guy warning them was a, quote, quack, right? For thinking it and even saying it. Because this was everything in the world that they lived in. These robots were around all the time. Everybody used a robot and everybody was used to them. So despite everyone turning a blind eye though, right? There was still the potential for the problem. There was still a potential for them going bad. And that's line item number one above that I was talking about, right? That's the big problem people are facing, but they are turning a blind eye because it's never happened to me, or I've never had a problem before, or it's what everybody's using. It's still a reality though, right? It's still very much a problem hidden in your business. It's the code you can't see. The algorithm is just doing its job, protecting Stripe, PayPal, Square, but it's not protecting you. It's maximizing for its potential, not yours. It's there for you. It's not there for you in any way, shape, or form. It really isn't. It only exists to do one thing, and that one thing is to protect its own system, right? Same thing with the robots. We got to protect our own system. So why not have something to protect you? How about having someone on your side? Someone who cares about your business and what you need instead of the corporation getting everything, right? How about somebody who actually wants to do business with you instead of seeing you fit inside of their neat little box? How about someone who's custom made for you? How about that? Want to know the problem with number one? Letting you get paid, right? So the other problem is that. That's it. 1 and 2. You need to get paid. You need to know the status of that payment. So the other problem with item number one, letting you get paid, is all the effort that you put into your business. The website, the cold email campaigns, the voice AI setting appointments, all while you sleep, right? That's what everybody's selling these days. But none of it matters if number one doesn't work, period. The old cliche is true, right? It's not rocket science. You could be the world's greatest marketing agency, totally dialed in. But when number one doesn't work, you're up the proverbial creek without a paddle, right? If number one isn't working, then nothing is working, period. Doesn't matter how good your sales team is, how good your workflows and automations are, how many people have signed proposals, agreed to the contracts, who want to pay you, the invoices sitting in their inbox or holding their card or their bank account in hand. If you can't take the payment, none of it matters, right? So what do? How do you avoid the risk of being shut down, right? How do you avoid that risk? Since everyone is telling you this is what you should be doing. Okay, so what do? How do you avoid the risk of being shut down since everyone wants to convince you the only option is Stripe or PayPal or Square, right? That's the only thing in their world. There's anything else out there, right? Have you ever heard of Fiserv, TSYS, or WorldPay? Most haven't, and most also don't know Stripe processes up that chain as well. The challenge is most also don't know when they can use those companies, when they're a better fit. At the end of the day, Stripe is a technology platform, not a processor. They let you do 1 and 2 above, right? They let you take payments and then they let you know the status of that payment. But there are 1,000 other technologies, from softwares to gateways to orchestrated platforms, doing the same thing. They have fraud prevention. They have customer vaults, right? For recurring payments, you need a customer vault. They have bin checkers, 3DS, and on the features go. All the stuff that you just lives in the background. Most of you watching this don't really know about that because it just lives in the background. So there's not one option that everyone should use. In fact, if you're using high level and you're an agency, you shouldn't use Stripe ever. That's where I stand on it, truly. If you're an agency and you're doing more than $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month, get off of Stripe, period. End of story. Because you are always running the risk of being shut down by them. That's it. You've seen it, right? Now, is Stripe a bad platform? Clearly not. They've built a multi-billion-dollar business, so they're doing something right. I mean, that's pretty obvious. But they've shown their hand. They've changed the strategy in their business, and that puts you at risk. How can you check if you're at risk? It's pretty simple. So here's how you're going to check. I'm going to ask you a few questions, right? So just think in your mind what the answers to these questions are. Do you take payment from a payment link? Now, it does not matter what type of payment link it is, whether it's your own domain and there's a payment form on the website, right? Or you send an invoice link or a text to pay, right? The majority of the time, meaning, does anybody ever come into your place of business and swipe their payment, right? Okay. Question number one, do you typically sell something that's digital in nature? I mean, do you sell something that someone has to log into? Doesn't matter if it's a course, a membership, a SaaS product. And do you sell this as one of your main products? Okay. Question number three, if you sell a digital product, is it recurring? Do you bill monthly for it? How long do you bill for it? Is it indefinitely, yearly, quarterly, monthly? By the way, it's riskier to sell a yearly product than a monthly one. Did you know that? All right. Who helps you fulfill your product? Do you have a team? If someone there, right? Is someone there to help you if you got hit by a bus? God forbid. Obviously, we don't want that to happen, but is somebody there? Okay. Do you own the software used to distribute the product or the course that you're selling or the membership that you're selling? Or do you lease it from someone else? Like, do you build on top of it some kind of white label software? That's what high level is, right? And I'm not knocking high level in any way, shape, or form. It's clearly a brilliant platform, but you don't really own it. Now, you might own some of the IP on top of it, right? How you do workflows, how you onboard people, that sort of stuff, but you don't own the platform, okay? Is your typical sale price above $500, right? Once you get there, that's considered high ticket. Have you been in business for longer than 3 years? Do you have more than 6 months of operating capital in your business bank account? right? And then one of the other things that most people are familiar with, have you ever had somebody make a complaint? Anybody ever issue a chargeback? So all of those determine your risk. If you answered yes, right, to the majority of them, you're just high risk. It's just how a bank sees you, including Stripe. Again, they're not a bank. They actually have a bank underneath them that's underwriting in a certain way with the algorithm, right? The account. They're essentially leasing you the ability to take payments. That's it. They're renting it to you. It's an Airbnb for payments. That's what it is. They don't want you there anymore. They don't want you there anymore. And all of that goes into the assessment and the algorithm. If you just look too risky for them in any way, done. It's over. Cancel account, frozen funds. Because they won't take the risk. They don't want to lose money, right? Nobody wants to lose money. So these, of course, are not all the questions, right, that cause risk, but there are a lot of them. And so again, Stripe's a technology company. They're not a payment processor. So they're going to assess your business based upon how it impacts their business, right? So again, it's an algorithm that's doing it, not human intervention, right? It's code. They just want to see what you're doing business with. I actually liken it to almost like American Idol, right? If you remember American Idol back in the day and you watched the show, like tens of thousands of people would wait in line and they'd let people come in and sing. And if they were really good, they would get to, the celebrity judges. But if not, they would let them sing, come in, and then on your way if it didn't work out. That's really what's going on with Stripe too. They just let everybody come on board and their algorithm assesses the risk. And if it's not worth it to them, done. You're over it. So, right, they made it super easy to get started. That's how I like to think of it. And they ask, because it's super easy, for a couple pieces of information. And all of a sudden you can take sales from any person for any dollar amount, right? So think about what's happening there, the mechanism of it. These customers of yours are actually taking out a loan, right? At some crazy interest rate, probably 17+%. They want their airline miles too, right? But they're doing all that to buy your product. Doesn't that sound risky to you? Of course it is. It's just the nature of credit card sales or bank sales, right? It's just risky. And so what anyone's trying to do is mitigate that risk. All they're trying to do is figure out the best way to support your business, keep you up and running, don't cancel your account, don't freeze your funds at the best possible price for you so that you can keep going, right? So it shouldn't cost that much. Now, the other thing you want to think of is everybody says Stripe is super convenient to get started, but there are other solutions like mine. And if comparatively speaking, if you started with Stripe the same day you started with me, then I'm going to have you getting paid, like the actual money landing in your bank account, faster than Stripe will. That's real convenience, right? So yes, you want to get paid. Yes, you want to get your product up and running. Yes, you want to be the fastest go to market, right? Everybody's got these launches that they want to do. They should think about payments as part of that. And they should think about it as a strategy as part of that. So when you look at it from that perspective, right, it is convenient to set up. It's integrated into high level, like quite literally you can install Noomerik. That's my company, right? You can install it from the marketplace inside of high level. And then every high level payment feature is available to you. Invoices, documents, payment links, subscriptions, all of it. Like you can use all of it and you just don't run the risk, right? So what did I say in the beginning? Payments are boring, but they should be incredibly dependable. And yes, right, Stripe does $1 trillion, whatever the number is, right? Somebody asked me the other day. They said, well, how big are you? Like, how long have you been around? And I said, I told him how long we've been around, for 4+ years. And he said, because, Stripe, they're super huge, that sort of thing. They're reliable. I'm like, are they reliable if they're kicking people off? And he's like, that's actually a really good point. Because they can look reliable, show reliability, but the reality is we've all seen it, especially in the high level world where we're working, where we focus our time and attention, where we want to serve agencies and their clients. We know that entire ecosystem. And so if the other party, right, the Stripes, the PayPals, the Squares of the world are kicking people off, are canceling accounts, are freezing funds, are actually letting money come in, right? They're letting you take a payment and then they're freezing that money. And then if the customer wants a refund, they're debiting your bank account. They're not taking it from the money that they froze. They're taking it from you. That happens. Do you want it to happen to you? Again, even if you've never had it happen to you before, that's not dependable. Certainly not boring. That's pretty exciting, right? All of a sudden you wake up one day and you log into the dashboard or you see an email and you're done. You're frozen. It's over, right? And then you're going to try and hem and haw and you're going to try and justify, well, I'll just set up a new Stripe account. Guess what? They know who you are. Their technology is really good. It can read where you're coming from, your IP address. It can see signatures, right? I had this happen to me in the very beginning of my business. Somebody got shut down by Stripe. They came to me, did very, very well. And then all of a sudden they got frustrated with me, right? Something simple. We eventually resolved it. He opened up another Stripe account. They shut that one down too. So what I'm saying is Stripe a bad product? No, works for a lot of people. It's not best for agencies. Really isn't. It's not best for anybody and not in high risk. All the questions that I ask you, right? When you take payments, do you own the platform? How much money are you taking? Where are you getting paid? How are you delivering it? All those things determine your risk. And if you're a marketing agency really wanting to grow and be stable, obviously high level software is where you should be. It's brilliant software, but you shouldn't be with Stripe. You just shouldn't. You should be with PayPal. You shouldn't be with Square. It's just too risky. You don't want to have that light switch not work when you flip it on in your house, right? And so with that being said, let me know when I can help you. I'm here to help. We're at Noomerik, Noomerik.com. And I'll see you on the next video.